Product provided by Nintendo. What is likely to happen with Xenoblade Chronicles in 2026? In today's video, let's go over what is likely to happen, what could happen, and what we're almost certainly getting. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and let's find out what is next in the story of Xenoblade. Or maybe I should call it a saga.
Pretty wild, huh?
Okay, let's begin with what I don't think is going to happen. I don't think we see Xenoblade 4 this year. Xenoblade 4, if you want to call it Xenoblade 5, you want to count X, or Xenoblade Saga. I don't think we see another mainline Xenoblade game this calendar year. However, there is still plenty that could happen to make 2026 a really exciting year for the IP. Let's cover what is almost certainly going to happen though. While I don't think we see the full release of the next Xenoblade game, whatever it ends up being called, I do think we get the announcement this year. And I made this prediction before, and I still pretty much believe in this. I think we're going to see the announcement of the next Xenoblade game in the September Direct that Nintendo almost always does. I think the announcement of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition being a shadow drop trailer on a random Tuesday was going to be an anomaly, and I don't see them, let's say, revisiting that line of marketing for the next mainline entry. I think we go back to probably what they did with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and you announce it at a Direct, you have actual Directs for it. That makes a lot more sense to me because I feel as if that was way more successful in terms of overall marketing than what they did for X. I still pretty much believe that we're going to see the next Xenoblade game. Again, if they hold to the schedule that, to be fair, we don't have too many data points for, that just mainly being like 2 to 3, we are probably seeing the next mainline entry in 2027, early 2027, possibly spring. And if you assume about a 6-month window for marketing, September kind of lines up with that. Now, is it possible that they announce it earlier in this year? It is. It's Monolith, never really count them out. They are kind of wizards. Now, since the next Xenoblade game is almost certainly being developed with the Switch 2 in mind, I find it highly doubtful that the schedule is going to be somehow expedited. But again, it's Monolith. Who knows? Maybe they are just actually wizards and can get a game out the door quicker. Maybe they could give us something in the next couple of months at a Direct, like maybe. Again, I just find it doubtful, and I feel that's more copium than anything. I think the most realistic course of events is we get an announcement in the September Direct and then a release early next year. But I don't think that's all that has to happen with Xenoblade in this calendar year.
Pretty wild, huh?
But let's circle back to the Switch 2 for a moment. Are we going to get Switch 2 versions of Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, 3, and X? I think it's possible, but I'm also not surprised that we haven't gotten them, and I won't be surprised if we don't get them. Here's why. We have to face reality here. At this current point in time, Xenoblade Chronicles is still a niche JRPG. It is not Nintendo's biggest series sales-wise. That's just a fact. Nor is it anywhere near there. And while Monolith is one of the most important studios for Nintendo overall, they are one of the most important studios for Nintendo. They don't just work on Xenoblade, they help out with a bunch of other projects. The biggest one recently was Mario Kart World. And like, while Monolith are also hiring more people, they only have so much manpower at their disposal. And like, I'm sorry, I just don't see a world where if you release the Switch 2 versions right now, that would make Monolith or Nintendo all that much money. And like, Nintendo is still a business at the end of the day. And Monolith are almost certainly working on the next mainline RPG, almost certainly Xenoblade Chronicles 4 or whatever you want to call it. And if that is the case, does it make business sense to basically create a small team that is not working on any of the projects that Nintendo wants Monolith to support or Xenoblade Chronicles 4? You slice away some of your talent to work on these updates for Xenoblade Chronicles games that may not make them all that much money. And like, maybe I'm wrong on that front, but I don't think I am. That just doesn't make all that much business sense. Now, does that mean that it's not going to happen? That's not what that necessarily means. It could just be a very small team and they just take way more time to do it for whatever back-end reason. And it could just be that because they could only devote limited resources to something like that, they weren't able to get it out in 2025, and maybe they could get it out for 2026. And maybe that was the plan the entire time, so they could have some kind of release for Xenoblade Chronicles to fill in this, like, what I imagine is going to be a gap here, because we're probably not seeing Xenoblade Chronicles 4 until 2027. We had Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition back in 2025. If you want to have something Xenoblade come out for 2026, these updates could be that, and that makes quite a bit of sense to me. Now, when we actually see those, who the hell knows, right? Like, that could be anywhere, anytime. It could be a shadow drop announcement. It could be part of a direct. Could be like next week. It could be in December. Who the heck knows, right? It's just, that ball is entirely in Monolith and Nintendo's court right now. There is one other issue with them doing Switch 2 versions of all the Xenoblade games, and that's Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Let's talk Definitive Edition.
Atop the world tree.
Let's follow the pattern. The next definitive edition for Xenoblade Chronicles is almost certainly going to be 2. We did 1, then we did X, and next is 2. And if the plan is currently to have a definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 come out at some point in the Switch 2 generation, how much sense does it make to have a Switch 2 version of the original Xenoblade Chronicles 2? It's like, would I mind the double dip? No, because I'm a fanatic about Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I love that game. I've played it numerous times, and I won't mind, and I'm going to play it numerous times again in the future. But does it make a lot of business sense to basically double dip with Xenoblade 2? If there is going to be any entry to do it with, it would be 2, because 2 is sold the most as an individual product, which is why, like, when some people say, oh, Xenoblade 2 doesn't need a definitive edition, I'm like, just look at it as a business. That's the game that has done the best for all of Xeno. You made a definitive edition for X. X sold like nothing on the original Wii U because it was also the Wii U. If you've already done a definitive edition for 1 and X, as a business, you're definitely going to do it in this age of remix/remasters for your highest selling one. That just makes business sense. And 2 is also, at this point, the game that has the most to gain from a definitive edition. The most that can be added, the most can be tweaked and altered with the actual experience to make it just a better product. Think about all the things it could change to some degree, like the field skills, like the mobile, send some of your blades out to do a mission that's on a timer, how grindy some of the affinities can be for some of the blades, the overall resolution, how pixely a lot of the environments can look nowadays, especially if you play Xenoblade 2 like undocked, the overall frame rate and performance. It's like, there is so much that can be done. Heck, you could have another once over for the English dub if you really want to. It's like, I love the English dub of Xenoblade 2, but the direction was borderline non-existent. There's so many things that could be tweaked and improved upon for the formula of Xenoblade 2. Despite how much I love that game, it's also the game with the deepest flaws. And if you're going to do a definitive edition anyways, smooth out those issues. Keep the peaks, raise the valleys. That can make the game a so much better experience. It just makes a ton of sense to me. However, the reason I'm talking about this right now is because of the Switch 2 version that we have been theorizing could come out for the other Xenoblade games. I don't think we get definitive edition for Xenoblade 2 at any point soon. If they follow the pattern, we won't get it until after Xenoblade 4 comes out. I don't see why they would break that pattern unless they just need more time for Xenoblade 4 and they could get a Xenoblade 2 definitive edition out the door quicker. Like, that's the only circumstance I could see them do that. Also, oh my god, they could do like Metsu Blade. For those who don't know, this has been something I've been wanting for the longest time, like an alternate New Game Plus playthrough for Xenoblade 2, where you just swap Pirate, Mithra, and Malice. Just swap them and have the entire story be like Rex and Malice going on a bro adventure. I've wanted that for so long. It'd be so fun for like a New Game Plus thing you could unlock. Not canonical or anything, just something really cool and fun to do. That would be awesome in my opinion. And like, I don't really see what new story you would add to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Definitive Edition, because that's already a complete story and it leads into Xenoblade 3. Yeah, you could do a story in between 2 and 3, I guess. I don't really think we need that right now though. We already have a prequel with Torn of the Golden Country. It's not like Xenoblade 2 needs a Future Connected or Chapter 13. Give me Metsu Blade. That would be awesome. But again, I don't think we see a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Definitive Edition at any point in 2026. I don't even think it's in 2027. But my point is, if we're going to get there eventually, do you do a Switch 2 version of Xenoblade Chronicles 2? My opinion, yes. Because I think all you need to do for a Switch 2 version, possibly up the fidelity of the game and just make it 60 FPS. That's all I personally need. And I think if Definitive Edition brings enough changes to the board, there would be enough reason to do both. Especially for a business where Xenoblade 2 is the game that has made the biggest strides to take this series into the spotlight. That just makes the most sense to me. But now let's don our tinfoil hats and get really conspiratorial, people. Let's talk Xeno Saga.
I'm sorry, Kos-mos.
So Monolith have really leaned into Xeno Saga recently, haven't they? And here's the funny thing. Now that I've played Xeno Saga 1, 2, fan remake of Pied Piper, I watched Missing Year, and I played Xeno Saga Episode 3. I go back to Xenoblade, and I notice so many more Saga references than I ever knew even existed. And it goes back, people. I'm sure I'd notice a few if I played Xenoblade 1 again, but like I went back to Xenoblade 2 to do the kos-mos and Telos like blade quests. My god, there's so many references even in Xenoblade 2. This is not a new thing. They have like never abandoned Saga. And it's just like they continue to lean more into that with each game. With Xenoblade 3, Future Redeemed, even though 3 is mostly like Xenogears, but like especially with like Future Redeemed and like X Definitive Edition. Also just back in the day with X. They just continue to lean in and embrace Xeno Saga. For me, that's a great thing because I think Xeno Saga is absolutely phenomenal. But I've said this before. Does it make a lot of sense? And let's be honest here. Does it make a lot of sense to have the story lean in the direction of Saga this much? Because if you haven't played the Saga games, it's even more than you think. Like the ghost from chapter 13 of Xenoblade Chronicles X, also from the beginning of Xenoblade Chronicles X. You remember the ghost, the other faction up Destroy Earth? Yeah, they're from Saga. It's not just a reference, by the way. They explain why the Gnosis and the ghosts are even different in terms of form. Like, that is explained in Saga Episode 1. They basically give like a wink wink nudge nudge to what the story of X was going to be in the mobile spin-off game for Xeno Saga called Pied Piper. That came out way before X. They name drop one of the primary antagonists of all of Xeno Saga, like his full government name in Future Redeemed, Dmitry Yuriev. And they just have Vector Industries, one of the biggest like groups of people in Saga overall, just on the radio that name drops Dmitry Yuriev. There's so much more. It's like, realistically, in your heart of hearts, when you think about it logically, does it make sense as a business, as a company, to have your story embrace an IP that belongs to another company, by the way, with Bandai Namco? They're the ones who actually own Xeno Saga. Does it make sense to lean and to have the story of your mainline JRPG series with Xenoblade Chronicles be so intertwined with that series and not have some way for you to like cash in on that? No, we just want to deliberately make the story a harder to understand experience if you haven't played Xeno Saga. And we're not going to find some way to cash in on that. It's like, that makes no sense to me at all in any capacity. It makes sense to me though, if you have a plan at some point to find a way to cash in on Saga. And it's not like Bandai Namco and Nintendo have never worked together before. Bro, they do it all the time. Or at least it feels like it's all the time. Like heck, like a month ago, we just covered how Nintendo pretty much acquired a studio from Bandai Namco in Singapore. Is it possible that the reason Monolith is able to continue to lean into Xeno Saga even more and more and putting into the forefront of the story and the narrative with each passing entry and release, because they know, hey, we got something in the back being prepped. The chefs are in the kitchen, people. Fire's on. We're putting seasoning on the meat over here. Would it surprise me if when we get to a Nintendo Direct or just a shadow drop trailer and they just go, guys, Xeno Saga Definitive Edition? Would I be surprised by that? Not at all. I would rejoice. The moans that would be uttered from my vocal cords would go down in song and possibly scripture. But I don't know if I would be surprised because I'm just approaching this like a business. What makes you the most money? What is the chance to make you the most money? And like, they could just like have not referenced Saga all this time. We have to remember that. They could have just actively chosen not to do it. No one would have batted an eye. No one. But they continue to choose to reference it and to make it integral and important to the story of Xenoblade. Heck, chapter 13 of Xenoblade X is basically one giant, yeah, this is all Xeno Saga stuff everywhere. The beach, the ghosts, the collective unconscious, Elma just dropping Bible verses. It only makes sense to me if you have a plan to somehow cash in on Xeno Saga. Again, tinfoil hat on, because I can only imagine how many times people that have played Xeno Saga from the beginning have gone through this same circus before, gotten their hopes up only to have them crushed. I know we were there back in like the early 2020s, where they were basically just like, yeah, it's just the money's not there. But again, and I love to quote this song from Bob Dylan, the times they are a-changin'. Xenoblade is in a far different position now at the start of 2026 than it was in 2019. It just is. The numbers are different. The potential for this series moving forward is is different. And again, like maybe they could just go the route of like, what if we just recap Xeno Saga and we reintroduce maybe like some characters? I'm being really conspiratorial here, by the way, in Xenoblade 4, and we just kind of introduce them as new characters, but we have the occasional reference to what they were back in Saga. Like they could do that, don't get me wrong. And again, this could just be copium, but God, would it be cool? Would it be awesome if we just got Xeno Saga again? Because those games are incredible. They stand shoulder to shoulder with Xenoblade, in my opinion. They have phenomenal characters, incredible stories. While the gameplay is varied, more often than not, it's really fun, especially Saga 3. It's a turn-based combat loop that does change like game to game, but oh my God, the music as well. I still think Xeno Saga Episode 3 probably has my favorite art direction of any game I've ever played. It's like that, a Halo 3 for me. Yes, that's how good Saga 3 is, by the way. I wouldn't be overly surprised if we do see something Saga related, even if it's something simple as just a straight up port, if they could do that. I would like to see a bit more than that. Like I would love to see Saga 1 and 2 have a visual overhaul to be more in line with Saga 3, and perhaps a gameplay overhaul to be more like Saga 3 or gameplay like Saga 1, maybe. I would like to see that personally. I just want to see Saga back. I think there's enough reason to do it, and I think there's plenty of indicators where if they do end up doing it, we could look back and say, oh, the signs were all there. Could that happen in 2026? Possibly. Do I think it's likely? Not particularly, but do I think it's possible? Yes, and I think the timing in 2026 makes more sense than anything. Why? Because what I just talked about with the Switch 2 versions of Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3. If you want something Xenoblade related for 2026 to fill in that gap year, you would have to do like the Switch 2 versions. But if you wanted something Xeno related, Saga's right there. That would be a substantial enough release to fill in the gap between X Definitive Edition and Xenoblade Chronicles 4, or whatever you call it, Xenoblade Saga. I still want it to be called that. But if you had the ability to drop Saga in 2026 to fill in that gap year, you get to keep Xenoblade in the forefront consistently, year after year after year after year. That is a powerful release cadence. I would be on board 100,000,000%.
Pretty wild, huh?
2026 has the chance to be a very dry year, don't get me wrong. We could just not get Switch 2 versions, we could just not get Xeno Saga, we could just get the announcement for Xenoblade 4 later in this year, and that could be all that we get. That is entirely possible, some would even say that it's likely. It could also be a very surprisingly awesome year, though. There is a ton of potential for the future of this series. There's a ton of potential for the present of this series as well. Xenoblade is awesome. If you haven't played the Xenoblade games, legitimately just go check them out. They are absolutely incredible. And here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your experience of Xenoblade. Where did you start with the series? Or have you not even played a Xenoblade game before? And what's your favorite element or part of any of the Xenoblade games? I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And come on, flying in a mech is pretty dang cool, ain't it? And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And speaking of the Switch 2, another game that I love a lot, Final Fantasy XIV, is almost certainly coming to the Switch at some point. Those are my words, by the way. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about. Want to find out more? Check out this video right here. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.